With a look at this week's UPS Team Performance Index, I'm Tom Vandervoort. Now, the TPI uses statistical analysis to create a new way to rate and compare college football teams. First, a separate index is developed for each aspect of team play: offense, defense, special teams, and miscues. Add those together with winning percentage, and you get an overall index for total team performance. 100 is average, 200 is perfect. Now, after the most interesting weekend of the year, let's see how some of the signature games affected the Team Performance Index, and let's start with Florida State's loss to North Carolina State. The Seminoles came in as the number 2 team in the TPI, but they only fell to number 3 after their 17-16 defeat in Raleigh. For the first time this year, the Seminoles offense rated below average for the week. No surprise to anyone who saw the second half of that game. Now, over in Columbia, South Carolina, Steve Spurrier's Gamecocks passed a major test with a 35-7 beatdown of Georgia. Coming into the game, the Bulldogs were ranked 5th in the polls with Carolina 6th, but the TPI knew better and had South Carolina rated 8th to Georgia's 13th. After the game, the discrepancy grew even bigger. South Carolina's performance was the 5th best of the week, despite a ranked opponent, and it moved the Gamecocks up to 5th in the TPI. Georgia fell 21 spots to 34th. Now, West Virginia's offense was under the microscope this week as Geno Smith's Heisman campaign continued with a trip to Texas. A back-and-forth affair saw the Mountaineers' offense take a step backward with an index for the game just above average, and the win came despite below-average rankings on defense, special teams, and miscues. In the overall TPI for the season, although Texas fell 7 spots to 22nd, they still index ahead of West Virginia, which actually fell a spot despite the win. The polls are high on West Virginia, but the TPI still sees some weakness there. Now, 2 of the biggest wins this week came for Notre Dame and Kansas State. The Wildcats thrashed their intra-state rivals at Kansas 56-16 with the week's top overall performance and top offensive performance. That was enough to move them past idle Alabama to number 1 in the overall TPI for the season. Notre Dame stayed undefeated with an impressive 41-3 win over Miami, moving up to 12th in the TPI. That's a gain of 7 spots. And finally, there was Florida and LSU. The Gators' 14-6 victory was not an offensive gem, with an index of only 58.6 on offense for the week. That was enough to drop them in the TPI from 5th to 8th despite the victory. For LSU, of course, things were a lot worse as they fell from 4th all the way to 13th. I'll be back next week with more numbers for the UPS Team Performance Index. I'm Tom Vandervoort.